Oh, all right. So check out this shirt. It's finally nice to have one of my own shirts. I think it came out pretty nice. Today we're going to be taking a look at a very unique paddle, the OneShot FlipShot. This paddle was designed to have two different sides of faces, similar to how table tennis rubbers work, where one side is designed for power with fiberglass, while the other side is carbon fiber for control. So let's dive in and see how it held up. Before we get into the specs, I just want to say thanks to Just Paddles for sending this over for me to make this video. If you guys enjoy the content and plan to pick up a new paddle, you can use my affiliate link down in the description, which gives me a small kickback if you make a purchase. And just so you guys know, Just Paddles did not have any say in this video. They just send me the paddles so that I can make these videos for you guys. They have no say in the final video, and they do not influence my thoughts. All thoughts are my own from my own time playing with the paddle. So going over these paddle specs, we have a wide body paddle with a 14mm polymer core with a purchasable weight ranging from 7.5 ounces up to 7.9 ounces. The handle length is 5.4 inches and the grip circumference is 4.25 inches. As mentioned in the intro, the blue side is the control side with a carbon fiber face, while the red side is fiberglass and is meant for power. As far as spin goes, it was pretty average. I tested both the red side and blue side to see if there was a difference, and they came in almost identical. The control side got 1298 RPM, while the red side was 1283. So these numbers certainly aren't anything crazy. I will say though, I did feel like my serves and drives really didn't have any issue. I think part of this is due to the paddle lacking substantial power that you can hit it nearly as hard as you want and it just doesn't go out. It does appear that they're using a spray-on grit that we're all familiar with from the Franklin Signature paddle and the Diadem Warrior. Mine already feels like it's smoothing out slightly after just a few days of use, so just keep in mind that the spin numbers may drop quite a bit once that grit is gone. Okay, so let's talk about what you're all here for, and that is the power and control. Unfortunately, I don't think this paddle succeeds in the way that people expect it to. When I first heard about this paddle, I was thinking to myself, people already have a hard enough time adjusting between a full fiberglass paddle and a full carbon fiber paddle, so how on earth are they going to adjust on the fly while they're playing with the same paddle in a game? Well, the difference in feel between the two sides is not very substantial. My expectations were probably higher than they should have been because I was hoping for something like the softness of a Selkirk Vanguard paddle, but then some nice put-away power that you expect from fiberglass. Obviously, the core plays a pretty large role in how soft something is, so it was probably a bit too much for me to expect a 14mm core to feel as soft as a Vanguard paddle when those are a 16mm core. With that being said, I was quite let down how little difference there actually was between each side. The fiberglass side does have a touch more power, but the control side really doesn't feel like that much more control. Overall, the paddle just leans towards control in general. When I was using this paddle, I was using the control side for my forehand and the power side for my backhand. As far as the whole switching sides for power or control, I just found that there's really no good time for you to actually be able to do that. If you're at the kitchen line, you definitely aren't going to be switching sides during a dink or volley, and when you're being attacked, you don't have time to switch sides. So blocking with your backhand results in a slightly different shot than blocking with your forehand, and it's not a significant difference, but when you're talking about something that is happening very fast, like an overhead reset, that small difference could mean landing your ball in the kitchen or floating it back to your opponent for another attack. I think the area that I struggled most with this paddle was dinking and drops. I would have thought with this feeling more control oriented that it would have been easier for these shots, but for some reason, my backhand dinks just weren't clearing the net, and third shot drops and resets were just floated way too high. I think the only shots that this paddle really felt okay for were drives and serves. But like I mentioned previously, I think the main reason for that was because I can swing as hard as I want and the ball just doesn't go out. Overall, the paddle has a very harsh and crisp feel when the ball makes contact. It's almost the polar opposite of a Hyperion CFS or Vanguard 2.0. I feel quite a bit of vibration, and it doesn't feel like the paddle helps soften the ball for me. It feels like the ball is hopping off of the face very fast and doesn't sink in. Of the paddles I've tried, I'm not particularly in love with how this one feels. Some paddles just feel really enjoyable to hit, and this one just feels kind of cheap and harsh with a lot of vibration. My FlipShot came in at 7.5 ounces, and it is definitely a light paddle. At the net, it feels very easy to maneuver quickly, and hands battles feel easy to navigate. It doesn't pack a huge punch at the net, but it is easy to move around due to the light weight and more handle-heavy design. The sweet spot honestly didn't feel very good to me. I don't know that it was necessarily that the sweet spot is bad, but more so that the paddle just doesn't feel enjoyable when the ball hits the face, which kind of makes the sweet spot feel worse. I'm also very used to elongated paddles, and I think because this is more rounded, I think it was easier for me to miss hit because my muscle memory is trained to hit the ball slightly higher up on an elongated face. So overall, I don't know, the sweet spot maybe wasn't bad per se, but the paddle as a whole just doesn't feel good when you hit the ball. I don't really have a lot to say about the build quality. It feels about how you would expect most polymer paddles to feel. Nothing feels very standout about it. The only thing I will say is that after just a day of use, I noticed that the end cap on my paddle wiggles around quite a bit. It's hard to display on camera, but it's very noticeable when playing the game. I'm willing to chalk this up to a defect, but I did want to mention it in case others experience it. With the end cap wiggling, it kind of just felt like the paddle was going to come out of my hand or that it was going to snap near the bottom. It just made holding the paddle more difficult.
So this is the OneShot FlipShot. Gave it a try today. I would say overall, the build quality feels pretty cheap. I would say that when you're hitting with it, you'll feel a significant amount of vibration up your arm, kind of no matter what ball you're hitting. I felt like, especially on returns, when you have pace coming in and you're taking a swing at your return, felt like there's quite a bit of shot coming down into your forearm. And I actually had to I played with it for one game and then felt that kind of in my forearm. In terms of the implementation of kind of like the two different sides of it, it's kind of negligible. I would say that there is a little bit more power on the red side, and then there's a little bit more control, if you'd say, on the blue side. But I also think if you're playing pickleball like me, I don't switch my grip. I just play with a Continental the whole time, and I don't flip it. So it might get, if that's part of your game, flipping your grip, it could help you a little bit, but overall it didn't help my game. I would say, as it compares to kind of other things in its price category, I don't personally recommend it. I started playing with a $50 Gamma paddle, and honestly, I would play with that Gamma paddle over this. I feel like for the paddle, it doesn't offer a ton of pop, a ton of spin, but also the sweet spot feels remarkably small. So I currently play with the Project 002 from Selkirk, and that has a very small sweet spot, and I would say they feel almost similar in the size of sweet spot, but the Selkirk 002 actually feels better outside the sweet spot than this does. Because there's so much vibration, I felt like the only shots where I felt very comfortable hitting was when I had a two-handed backhand and had one finger on the face of the paddle. And it really just, it didn't feel comfortable to play with from any spot on the court. I think maybe the one plus side is that you're really not gonna, I didn't miss any balls long, but that's mostly just a result of the lack of pace. I don't know, I don't have anything, I literally don't have anything good to say about it, so.
So overall, I'm pretty let down with this paddle. I really wanted this to have each side contrast each other more. Yes, the red side does hit a bit harder, but not enough to feel like it's a giant advantage. Similarly, for the control side, it isn't soft enough for me to classify it as control. I understand that there are probably severe limitations with this type of design because the core has such an impact on power or control, but if this is as small of a change as it is, I don't think it's worth it to have the two different sides. I'm also not personally convinced yet that having two different sides is necessary in this sport. You just don't have time to switch back and forth for power or control unless you have a really big lob that you have time to set up for. But even then, switching only for an overhead feels a bit pointless or even risky. The idea right now feels gimmicky to me, but I'm willing to see how this idea plays out with other companies like ProXR, who have one coming out this summer. Maybe I'll be wrong and this idea catches on and works great in pickleball, but I think for that to happen, the implementation of this idea is going to have to change quite a bit. I applaud OneShot for trying the idea. I think we need more companies trying to push the technology boundaries in this sport. So even if this one didn't work, good on you guys for having the idea, and I hope that future iterations of this idea improve upon it. But for this first one, I really don't think it worked out, and to me, this paddle was kind of just a flop. So there you guys go. Those are my first impressions on the OneShot FlipShot. It's a bit unfortunate that this one didn't work out so well, but if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to click subscribe down below if you want to see more content just like this, and I will catch you guys in the next video.